Hello everyone, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Sanding Channel. It is the first, never fails, does it? It's the first properly sunny and warm and nice day outside, which means it's a perfect day for painting. It's windy, but sometimes you just gotta deal with that. Awesome time to paint the V2. There's one problem, and as usual, I've procrastinated sanding because despite what you saw in my carbon fiber video, the last one I just put out, I actually really hate sanding. So we gotta sand these giant 2 foot long fillets down before we can paint. Oh, God help me. Anyway, I just want to do a couple quick housekeeping things. New merch is out. It's like a 90s retro sunset vibe, but with rockets on the pad at a launch. It looks pretty cool. Fun Easter egg in the merch. The far right rocket is one of these. Big giant fat boy because I'm a sucker for Estes upscales. But it's available on t-shirts. Somebody requested last time a mug and women's merch, so both of those things are available. A coffee mug and women's shirts and tank tops, men's tank tops this time, as well as the original beer glass and the premium t-shirts. This design goes away forever on March 31st, and if you use RG22, that's discount code RG22, you get free shipping on your entire order from RocketVlogs.com, Impulse Designs, Teespring store. The reason RG22 is I'm going to Red Glare, and it was a lot of money to go, so I would appreciate the help out. I'm taking my cousin, and Taylor is meeting us in Baltimore as well, so we can go to Red Glare. And another cool thing that's happening, I'll be at Tripoli, Las Vegas' Spring Fest rocket launch next weekend. I wasn't initially planning on going, but a friend of mine named John Preto is doing his level 3 and wanted me to host this live stream. It's crazy. He's got production crews and 20 different people on his production crew, people coming in from Finland, driving thousands of miles, and this is a full-scale, huge, TV quality production, but it's just a live stream. I don't say just a live stream, I don't mean to discredit it, it's insane, but I'm hosting it. So myself and another a doctor from Australia named Vienna, she's gonna be remotely co-hosting this event. I'll be there at the field. John's flying an N2200 CTI 5 grain 98 pink motor. I feel a little bit, I'm jealous he got the 98 while I have the 75. The pink motor is super sick. I'm super excited about it. So I'm gonna link that channel in the description. It's OH Space, Office Hours Space, that stands for. I'll actually put their website in the description, and that starts Saturday, I believe, at 8 a.m. God, I don't know, guys. I'm sorry. I should have been more prepared about this, but the website is in the description. If you want to tune into that live stream, check out their YouTube channel and their website. It's oh-space.com, description, and I'll be hosting that if you want to tune in. We're doing live Q&As and stuff. Anyway, I'm procrastinating again. Let's sand. I'm taking it outside. This, as much as I love Bondo spot putty, dude, it makes a mess. Alright, so step 1 in this endeavor is to knock all of that spot putty down with 180 grit sandpaper, and then I followed it up with 220 just to smooth things out a little bit. After I finished sanding all of the fillets, I went over the whole airframe with 180 and then 220 as well, paying special attention to that pesky seam that came from gluing the boat tail to the airframe. As usual, afterwards, I cleaned it up very meticulously with denatured alcohol, ensuring that as much of that dust as possible was gone before we started painting. Now here's a neat trick I got for you if you want to paint a rocket and get the whole airframe and not have it puddling up at the bottom whatever you're sitting it on. I used the coupler with my vent band that also need painted, and I put it in upside down, masked off the section of coupler that would be outside of it so that I could stand the rocket with the fins up, and that actually, as you're about to see, was ultimately my downfall. But we'll get to that in a minute. Check out some painting stuff. Now, I was already not having a good time because the Rust-Oleum paint that I wanted wasn't in stock anywhere around me, so I went with Krylon, which just doesn't quite have the coverage, and it's already not a good start to be using yellow because yellow doesn't cover anything, But things got a lot worse when I was waiting for this paint to dry and the rocket got knocked over by a gust of wind. Turn around for just a couple seconds to clean some stuff up, and aside from this Krylon not covering very well and me getting a bunch of runs in it, which was already irritating enough, the wind knocked it over and cracked this fillet all the way down. So there you go. You can see it flexing now. So I'm gonna have to dig all of that epoxy out and make a new fillet. The good news is the backside, well, it looks like there's a crack there actually, but I can't tell if that's just in the, if it's in the actual epoxy or not on that side. Oh yeah, it does go all the way around. So fillet around this whole fins, both sides, we're gonna have to redo, and that really sucks because that means we're waiting for this paint to dry, we're sanding everything where the epoxy is gonna go, and then we're digging all this epoxy out. Luckily our beefy carbon fiber internals in there kept it all, you know, the fins attached still, and it's, you could probably fly it like this, it'd just be a little more wobbly than you want. It hit these two fins on the ground, so there's a little bit of a crack in this one too. It doesn't go all the way down like this one does, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not very excited about that. So yeah, this one, the fillet, I don't know if you can see it from there, but the fillet is cracked all the way around, down and around like I showed you in the video. I think this one back here is just cracked in the actual Bondo spot putty. So I think we're okay there. I'm gonna sand the paint off and take a look, obviously, but this one did crack on both sides. So what we're gonna do is get out a die grinder bit. Oh, you know what? No, that's in the epoxy. We're gonna get out a die grinder bit and start digging this fillet out so we can make a new one. Most important when something like this happens is to try to remain calm and make sure all of the swearing and expletives and being mad happens off camera. Then come back and make it look like you know what you're talking about and it didn't affect you at all. At least we can take solace in the fact that this happened after just a single like base coat of the yellow. So yeah. Anyway, the idea here is you can see right where the crack stops right there. So we're gonna get a die grinder bit on Dremel and basically follow that crack, and we're just gonna open up a new channel right down the middle there where the fillet is, and we're going to sand everything and clean it as usual with denatured alcohol, and then we're just going to fill in everything that we took out with a new epoxy fillet. We're going to do it on both sides. Unfortunately, it does look like on this side it made it through to the epoxy as well, but we don't have to go very far up on this one. It's mostly just right at the back where the taper is, so the fillet gets very small. And I was concerned about this being an issue on landing anyway, which now I know my concerns were well placed, especially after my irises cracked fins and did this exact same thing. So I was planning on putting way too big of a parachute in this and bringing it down at like 15 feet per second or slower because of this potential. So good. We learned. Like I said, it at least would have been satisfying to get a good M motor flight out of it and have this happen on landing, but at the same time it's kind of nice that it happened before I even finished painting it, so I don't have to be too careful about, you know, ruining the paint job because it's not done or good. There's some runs and stuff in there from spraying yellow. I paint a lot of stuff in the wind. Spraying yellow in the wind it's a bold play, I'll tell you that much. Especially, they didn't have the yellow I wanted. I had to use Krylon. The Rust-Oleum 2x coverage, American accent stuff, my bread and butter. So when I have to, you know, do actual light coats and take my time, I start struggling a little bit. But anyway, you've listened to me talk enough. Welcome, actually, to a new segment that you guys have never seen on Rocket Vlog, fixing a broken rocket. So, hey, look at that. Now we have new content. And yes, I'm wearing a mask. know, you kind of lucked out with this one. That crack is right along where the fillet meets the airframe, so it's not opening up anymore. Wish the paint was a little drier so I could get a closer look at what's going on there, but it looks like I only need to come up to about where I'm at. It's not wet sandpaper, by the way, so it was falling apart. But that's all we needed. So yeah, you can see, like I said, the boat tail makes the fillet taper. So this crack is actually right along the line, right where it meets the airframe. So that's not a problem. That's still perfectly fine up there. Where we have issues and where we had to dig it out is where it starts to taper with the shape of the boat tail. And I might even have to dig a little more out, bring it further up here just a hair to where this crack starts moving in. Because basically what we're going to do is we mix up some epoxy and we're going to use the same fillet tool, the same piece of PVC pipe that I used to do this fillet, and we're just going to remake the back half. And just, it's still composite, still glass epoxy. We're still doing a composite bond to everything. It's just like bonding a composite part to a new composite part, and so it's gonna play along just fine with this epoxy. And yeah, and then we get to do the whole sanding and painting thing all over again. But like I said, this is a cool, I haven't repaired a rocket in a long time, so it's nice to get to exercise these skills. And if we have to look at the bright side of dumping my rocket because of the wind, it's that some good repair practice, right? Everybody could use it from time to time. So what I'm going to do now is flip it over and wet sand all the yellow paint off the other fillet. I don't know how far it went up on that fillet either, but I'm assuming it's probably about the same, maybe even a little less on the back side. Yeah, it looks like it only came up to about there. And now that we don't have epoxy on that side either, that should be flexing a lot more. And we can see how high that crack goes. Right about there. Cool. Let's sand. I don't want to apply too much pressure when you're sanding wet paint. You shouldn't sand wet paint. I should make that very clear. But if you're going to do it like I do, you want to be very light because the paint's just going to ball up and start filling the sandpaper up like that. That's why we're wet sanding. And you want to apply very little pressure. And it sucks, but it does work. I've done this a few times when I messed something up or I got some gnarly runs in some paint and I just don't want to wait for it to dry so I can try again because I'm going to have to sand it anyway. So I'll just wet sand the tacky, still wet paint, let it dry overnight and come back, finish sanding, and then try again the next day. But I mean, sometimes these things just happen. It was the first nice day we've had, like I said, and I was just antsy and just wanted to get some paint on this thing, so. I knew I shouldn't have painted it fins up, but I wanted to do that so I had the opportunity to paint the bottom of the fins. And just having it precariously balanced like that in the breeze was, didn't pay dividends. But that's alright. This is actually kind of beautiful. You can see right where that crack was. Now you can see it's down to the fin, and I don't know how well you can see it on camera, but The line for that crack follows right up there. Probably not well because there's nowhere for me to go that there's not a shadow, but anyway, the crack goes right up there. But again, we're following the body line. If I bend this fin, where you can see that crack doesn't flex anymore, which means we're just gonna go over the top of that with epoxy and it's gonna be like it wasn't there. I'm gonna flip it over and dig into the other side just a little bit more and make sure we're all the way down, and then we'll put some epoxy in there. So what I'm doing here comes courtesy of Crazy Jim, and I did it for the rest of the fillets on this rocket too. If you mix up your epoxy really well, obviously with your silica, but then spread it out thin on a paper plate and let it outgas and get all the little bubbles out of it, it makes your fillets set up a lot smoother, no big bumps or anything like that as long as you mix it nice enough, and then you have to sand a lot less, which is my favorite thing. From here, it's business as usual, cleaning everything up with denatured alcohol. As you saw before, I sprayed it with canned air too, just to make sure as much of that dust from using that grinder is out of there as possible. So, I think just because of the shape of the fins, effectively, when it hits the ground hard, right on the edge, because of the fin span back here, it's putting all of the pressure on the smallest part of the fillet. It just happens to work out the fillet gets smaller as it tapers towards the back. So I did a Patreon video where I was saying I'm pretty sure I'm probably gonna shoot for bringing this thing down between 10 and 15 feet per second on a main shoot, just to combat that happening some more. But I think it's going to happen. The nice thing is, in doing this, I got to see, you know, kind of where the weak spots are, if you will. And pretty much here forward, where the majority of the taper stops, here forward, the fillets are fine. And on the inside, the fillets look fine from what I can see. So I think this is just a design issue. So really, if we can blame anyone, it's, I guess, Werner von Braun. Thanks, Werner. You might have put America in space. Oh, thank you. Alright, well, hopefully that's, yeah, it'll be close enough. I'm not retaping that. But yeah, so irritating, but you know, I haven't got to do a good rocket repair in a while.
Before you even fly it.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I was like, this is a catch-22, because I'm mad that it didn't even get to fly first, but also happy that it wasn't like fully painted yet. I had one coat of paint on it. Can you imagine how much more annoying it would have been if I had the paint job with the other color on there and everything else, and I would have had to sand through that, remask a bunch of lines and stuff to repaint it. So, it's not the best scenario we could have had for the day, but thank you guys very much for tuning into this episode of Rocket Vlogs. Obviously, not how I intended the day to go, but good quick thinking on the feet, I guess. Not really. Everybody knows how to fix a rocket, but if you didn't, now you do. Now you know how to fix cracked fillets. very happy it was a fiberglass rocket because that process is a lot more involved on a cardboard rocket. The cool news is I get to do it again on my Iris because it broke the fin off in Vegas. So double up. That's always exciting. And right here my camera died, so I'm going to roll my Patreon supporters while I tell you the rest of the outro. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're getting close to 10,000 subscribers and all the Patreon support and everybody and all your nice comments. It makes me feel very important, and I'm very glad that you guys are here. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Whether or not you do it financially, I'm just super glad you're here. But if you do want to help financially, check out rocketvlogs.com/Patreon or rocketvlogs.com. And check out the new merch that goes away March 31st. I'll see you guys in the next video.